What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Travfish Aquatics. Today I'm going to be doing a hang-on back filter comparison between the AquaClear 110, the Emperor 400, and the Penguin 350 hang-on back filters. Alright, so the reason I'm doing this video is because there's a lot of talk online about if you want to buy a hang-on back filter, which one is the best one, and these three filters are the top three that I see being compared all the time, whether people want to do the 350, the 400, or the 110. Which one is actually better, right? So some of them have better flow than others, some of them have more cubic inches for media than others, and we're going to compare them and see how they rank against each other, what kind of space they have for media, what their flow rates are, how much they cost, and maybe some of the downsides that each one of them have. So basically, here's how I'm going to go over this. I went ahead and I measured all the media baskets to see how many square inches each media basket holds. And I'm going to do this review as if each basket was to be loaded up with as much sponge as possible, sponge being the home for the beneficial bacteria. That way the cubic inches that are being used in this are maximum volume used. Now, the one thing that I do want to note is the Penguin 350 and the Emperor 400, we do have to do a slight modification to the dimensions, and I'll show you why. So if we look at this filter here, this is an Emperor 400. If you look at the media basket, right? If you were to load this entire thing up with sponge, the only place the water comes in is this little 3/4 inch gap right here. Now if you had that completely full, in order for the water to flow through all this sponge, it would have to come in this little spot here. And if that plugs up, none of this stuff back here works, right? So what we have to do is when we measure this media basket, we have to make sure we leave this 3/4 inch slot open all the way across. That way water will flow through, so that way if you have sponge in here, the water will flow all the way across and then through the entire sponge, right? That's just the way it has to work. So that's how these were designed for the filter cartridges. It has to work the same way with a sponge, so that's how we're measuring those, just so you guys know. So that's basically how that's going to work, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the filters a little bit. I have experience with all three of these filters. I use them all currently, except for the Emperor 400. I have two of these filters, and I am not a very big fan of them. So while we're on that, I'm going to talk about the downsides of some of these filters, and we'll start off with the Emperor 400. The bio wheels, I feel, are very, very gimmicky. If the flow of the aquarium is reduced at all because any of the cartridges or sponge in this matter get plugged up at all, they stop turning and all the bacteria that is growing on them dies. So they're very gimmicky. I don't believe in them. So when I run these filters, I do not run the bio wheels. And another thing that is wrong with this filter is if you have a power outage or your power flashes off for a couple seconds and then back on, this filter does not reprime itself, right? So normally how these filters work, the hang-on backs, is on the pickup tube. If the power goes out, the water begins to siphon back out into the tank because the tank volume of water is lower than what's in here, so it's going to naturally siphon, and the water breaks its siphon as soon as it reaches the mouth of the pickup tube, because that's the lowest point before it gets air into the line. So it breaks the siphon. When the power comes back on, the impeller kicks on. It's already underwater, so it starts to draw water in and reprimes itself. In this filter, the way it's designed, the siphon break point is actually below the impeller, and that's why it does not reprime itself. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So basically, the impeller is in this little basket system here, and you can see that the impeller actually hangs down below. If we look in there, the water break point. The water break point is here, right? If you look in the filter, the water break point is going to be right here. and the impeller actually sits up above that because the impeller's up in here. So the water's going to drain down below the impeller, and when it turns back on, this is just going to be running dry. So that's one of the things I don't like about the Emperor 400s. And while I have this apart, there's another big misunderstanding that the Emperor 400 is a dual motor hang-on back. It is a single motor. The impeller has dual fans. So basically, I'll pull this open. If you look at this impeller, you can see there's the upper fan right here and the lower fan right here. And how this works is this part of the impeller, the upper fan, is what drives the main filtration, right? So the water that flows through the hang-on backs, through the sponge, and back into the aquarium. This part of the impeller, this lower fan, is what drives these spray bars that are on this filter, these right here, to spin the bio wheels. So that's how that works. It's a little gimmicky, a little fancy, but that's how it works. It's a dual impeller. It's not dual motor. So just get that out of the way. So we'll go ahead and put this back together real quick. And move on to the 350. So I don't currently have any 350s to show you in my hands because they're all running on my tanks, right? Because I replaced the 400s with the 350s. The only thing that I find wrong with the 350s is the bio wheels because they're gimmicky. Everything else, form and function, is perfect on those. I love them, right? Now, the AquaClear 110, I really struggled to find something wrong with this. When they designed the AquaClear 110, it has the best design a hang-on back filter could have. So the way the AquaClear 110 works is instead of pumping the water in along the backside and having the water flow forward and out, it actually pumps the water in downward and then up through all of the media and then out into the tank. So the design on the 110 is very, very good. The only thing I can find wrong with it, and it's not even something that's really wrong because it's actually a good identifier, is when the media plugs up, when your sponge and stuff plugs up, the basket lifts out. Now the only thing that could really go wrong with this is as the basket is lifting out, it can cause water to come out of the hang-on back, right? But if you were to see it early enough and not let it get that bad, the basket rises just a little bit, and that's kind of your identification to say, okay, that needs to be cleaned. So that's the only real downside that I can see on the AquaClear 110. Aside from that, all these filters do an excellent job at what they're meant to do, which is filtering an aquarium. So without further ado, let's run through some data on these filters, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line up pictures on the bottom here of these filters. We'll do the AquaClear here, the Emperor 400 here, and the Penguin 350 right here. And first off, the AquaClear 110 is rated for 110 gallons. The Emperor 400 is rated for 80 gallons, and the Penguin 350 is rated for 75 gallons. So the AquaClear 110 has a price point of about $80. Now, these prices I got from PetSmart. That way everybody can go see them. It's $80 at PetSmart, right? The Emperor 400 is $44, and the Penguin 350 is $26. Now, when we went ahead and measured all the media boxes, right? Now, keep in mind what I said earlier about the cartridge system filters. You have to leave that space in the back for the water to flow across to flow through all the media. When we went ahead and measured all the media baskets, the AquaClear 110 came out to 280 square inches, right? So if you had foam in there, you got 280 square inches of foam for the beneficial bacteria to grow on. Now, one thing to note on this also that I didn't mention before, when we measured the media baskets, we only measured up to this surface right here. We didn't measure all the way up here. We only measured to this surface because up to this point down, up to here, is where the media is wet and will grow bacteria. Everything above this is dry. We do not include that because no bacteria will grow in that area, and it is essentially wasted space, right? So we measured from this surface, this width, and this height. So the AquaClear has 280 square inches, so it has quite a bit of space if you were to fill that up with sponge. Next one, the Emperor 400, that has 240 square inches, right? So a little less. And the Penguin 350 has 180 square inches, so it's even less so than the Emperor 400. Now, flow rates. The AquaClear 110 has a 500 gallon an hour flow rate, so very, very high. It's going to have a lot of current in the tank, and it's going to move a lot of water. The Emperor 400 has 400 gallons an hour, so it still has a fairly high flow rate, and it's going to move a lot of water. And the Penguin 350 has 350 gallons an hour, so it's about 150 gallon an hour less than the AquaClear 110, but in my experience, it still has plenty of flow rate for taller tanks, like 55 gallons, 75 gallons, and so on, to get that water moving all the way down to the bottom and back up, so there's still enough flow there for this filter to be successful at what it needs to do. Now, all those things compared, which one of these filters do I think is the best one? If you had to walk into a store and buy the best filter off the shelf and run it as is, the clear winner in this is the AquaClear 110. If you had $100 walked in and said, I need a filter, is the AquaClear 110. They're extremely reliable, great filters. They already come with a huge block of sponge instead of a cartridge system. So these things are ready to roll, awesome right off the shelf. Go ahead and buy one. If you're looking to buy filters on a budget, right, and you're trying to save money, if you had to buy filters, I would buy the Penguin 350s, right? Now, here's my reasoning. They're only $26. If you price match these, they're only $23 on Chewy, right? So go to PetSmart or wherever you're getting your filters, but PetSmart price matches Chewy, so that's why I'm saying that. Go to PetSmart, get 2 of them, right? So for $23, you're only looking at 50 bucks. Then you can go on Amazon and buy a very large chunk of sponge, right? Cut it up, put it in those filters, and now you essentially have 360 square inches of filtration, right? You got 350 gallon hour flow, but 2 filters, right? So you're looking at 700 gallons of flow, right? Mount one on each side of the tank, and now you've got more flow, and you've got more square inches than the AquaClear 110 for about the same price, probably less, right? You're only looking at about $75 that way. You could even do the same thing with just one of those. Personally, for me, I would not recommend buying the Emperor 400, right? Considering that's only rated 80 gallons if you were to fill that up with sponge, versus the 350. Even though the square inches of biological media is less, I would still purchase the 350 over the 400 because of the risk of the power going out and not being able to reprime on its own and losing your beneficial bacteria colony in your filter. I have had it happen. I absolutely hated it, and I removed it from my tank and replaced it with the 350 just for that reason. So that's my review on these filters, guys. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you run any of these filters, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys for watching Try Fish Aquatics. I will see you guys in the next video.